Straight ahead on 12 News, an unsolved Brooklyn Park murder. Police release evidence with the hope of shedding new light on the case. Plus, the role of millennials in this year's presidential election. Why a political expert says they hold significant sway in the vote. But first, a close-knit Plymouth neighborhood coming to grips with a damaging fire. 12 News starts right now. Hello and thanks for joining us. Plymouth fire officials are trying to determine what caused a 2-alarm fire that badly damaged a home.
The fire broke out around 3:30 Monday afternoon on the west side of Medicine Lake. And 12 News reporter Sonia Goins has more on the investigation.
Mike and Alice, this house is boarded up and badly damaged. It could have been much worse if it wasn't for the quick thinking of an ice fisherman.
He asked his son to run over for a closer look, so that helped us request more resources sooner rather than later.
An ice fisherman called 911 after seeing flames shoot from the back of the home.
It was a well-involved fire in a relatively large home, so we got as much help as we could.
Dozens of firefighters from several different cities rushed to the scene.
We deemed the home too involved in fire and too unsafe at that point to even send anybody in.
I've never seen such smoke in my life. It was thick and billowing.
Fire trucks and water hoses were lined up and down the street.
I could see a huge ball of flame coming my way, and I thought, what kind of fire is this?
Tom Rucky lives down the street and tried to douse the flames.
Things were exploding, and then something was like falling down, like the roof was falling down or something.
He was able to make it into the home, but thick smoke prevented him from going any further.
There's just no way I could get in there.
Tom was determined to help. His aunt, Barbara Faber, lives in the home with her 2 adult children and a friend.
And I could hear Barbara yelling, help. Her voice was very weak.
Barbara made it out, but it was difficult because she uses a walker.
I think it took her some time to get out of the house, yeah.
The family pets were not so lucky. 2 dogs and 2 cats didn't make it.
Not the proudest memory I'm going to have in my life, because I just wish I could have got them out.
The fire hits close to many who live on this street. Half of the folks are related.
We have reunions and barbecues and family squabbles right here. And we called it Medicine Lake before we called it Plymouth.
Tom's grandfather owned the land and divided it up amongst family.
Our existence here was just a farm. It was a dairy farm.
Now his relatives will come together to help one of their own.
And they looked pretty bleak last night. There was a lot of tears in their eyes. I mean, they lost everything, including pets.
The house was on the market to be sold, and we're told some construction work was being done on the home, but there's no word on whether that played a role in the fire. Meanwhile, a fund has been set up at TCF Bank to help the Faber-Martin family. Brooklyn Park police are seeking help in an unsolved homicide dating back more than 2 years.
The shooting death of 43-year-old Daniel Friedenberg remains under investigation, and police do not have much evidence in the case. Eric Nelson joins us now with more on this. Eric?
Yeah, Alex and Mike, Brooklyn Park police are hoping to break the ice on this cold case, but have little to go on. There are a few leads in the shooting, except for a red baseball cap, which is currently the only clue to solving this case.
It's really the only evidence that was received from the scene. Everything else, as far as fingerprints and stuff, never panned out.
Now, according to witnesses, 3 men entered the house around 2 a.m. on August 31st, 2013. In less than a minute, they were confronted by Friedenberg, who was shot on the basement stairs. One of the men was wearing a red cap. Police hope someone will recognize it.
It's frustrating in the sense that we feel that there's maybe some people at the house that maybe knew more, but we're not willing to, we're unable to give us any good leads at that time and haven't come forward with anything since.
Now, if you have any information on this case, call the Brooklyn Park Police Department at 763-493-8222. Police are closing the investigation until they get some new leads. Alex and Mike?
All right, Eric, thanks. The federal government has reached a settlement with a Brooklyn Park landlord accused of discriminating against a tenant with mental health disabilities. Raylyn Gonzalez filed suit against the Huntington Place Apartments and its management for not renewing her lease because she required a service animal, which happened to be a pit bull. Mental health experts said the animal helped her cope with her boyfriend's suicide and her mother's murder. Under the terms of the settlement, the defendants must pay Gonzalez $35,000 and attend educational training for the Fair Housing Act.
Polaris, which has operations in Plymouth, plans to lay off 100 workers, half in the Twin Cities. Polaris makes off-road vehicles and snowmobiles. The layoffs follow a steep drop in sales blamed on light snowfall last quarter and a strong U.S. dollar. In 2014, Polaris experienced record growth and moved about 400 workers from its Medina headquarters to a Plymouth office building along Highway 169 and Bass Lake Road. The precise impact on the Plymouth operations is uncertain.
A big vote awaits the Brooklyn Park City Council on light rail. On Monday night, the public had an opportunity to weigh in.
There is no current process to compensate these homeowners, residents of Brooklyn Park, for the expected negative impacts on both the value of their home and their quality of life.
He's referring to the homeowners who will lose part of their land to make room for the Blue Line light rail extension. That's just one concern shared about the line, which will have 5 stops in Brooklyn Park. However, others who came to speak wanted to highlight the project's economic benefits.
We also feel that it's a great opportunity to be able to leverage economic development opportunities, especially to communities of color in this area, which is very much needed.
The Brooklyn Park City Council is expected to vote on the project on February 22nd. Monday night in Crystal, there was an opportunity to see the future impact of light rail in that city. The corner of Bass Lake Road and County Road 81 by Becker Park is where a light rail stop is proposed. And some concerns they want addressed is the County Road 81 pedestrian crossing, which is described as dangerous.
This is really about that 10-minute walk or that half-mile area around each of the stations. And so this is really the city's plan. This isn't Hennepin County's plan. It's not Metropolitan County's plan. This is the City of Crystal's plan, and looking at connections. How do people bike and walk to the station?
The Crystal Mayor Jim Adams told 12 News that discussions have surfaced about the possibility of a pedestrian bridge over County Road 81.
As the Iowa and Minnesota caucuses near and presidential politics generates top headlines, the outcome of the elections may be determined by how many millennials show up at the polls.
So the real question is here, are the millennials willing to engage party politics, or are they saying, we want to change the way the rules of the game are being played? And that's really what we're going to see, for example, when we get to Iowa next week. Do they actually show up? Are they willing to sort of play party politics to be able to change the party?
Hamlin professor of political science David Schultz spoke to the Golden Valley Rotary Club about the importance of the millennials in elections. As a group, millennials, or those born in the early 1980s through the early 2000s, are larger in number than the baby boom generation. They skew more liberal, more likely to support Democrat Bernie Sanders than Hillary Clinton, but they're also more skeptical of the political system and its two parties.
They don't like the current stalemate. They don't like the current deadlock. They don't like the current way that party politics is being played. And so a lot of times they have opted to walk away from politics.
If millennials and other swing voters stay home, Schultz believes Republicans will benefit. Coming up next, what doctors call a silent killer among women. That is next in Health Check.
And then later in sports, why Osseo is proving tough to beat in girls basketball.
But first, turning milder on Wednesday, we may reach 30 degrees. If you have a child who hasn't been to the dentist in a while, this is a good time to get caught up. More than 150 Minnesota dentists will be offering free dental care to children in need on February 5th and 6th. The dentists and their staffs are donating their time for a program called Give Kids a Smile. Dentists say 1 in 4 kids has untreated cavities.
And as dentists, we know that there are children in our state who aren't able to go to the dentist, either because their parents have no dental insurance for them, their parents may not be able to afford the treatment, they may even have insurance, but there's not a dentist who accepts their insurance.
If you'd like to sign up, you can call the United Way hotline by dialing 211 to find a dentist near you. The Minnesota Dental Association hopes to treat 5,000 kids for free. In today's Health Check, a look at what doctors call a silent killer among women.
And Delane Cleveland joins us now with more on what doctors want women to keep in mind during Cervical Health Awareness Month.
Now, Mike and Alex, every day 33 women in the United States are diagnosed with cervical cancer. This is the month when healthcare professionals encourage women to know more about their cervix and ensure they're up to date on their screenings.
Typically, every woman should be screened, particularly women who are sexually active or have had any kind of physical contact, whether they would consider it intercourse or not. Those are the women who should come in and be screened.
Dr. Donna Block of Clinic Sophia in Maple Grove says cervical cancer screenings can literally save your life. She touched on several key points that are important to know about cervical health. The first point is that cervical cancer is known as a silent killer because in its early stages, it rarely includes any identifiable symptoms. The second point is that the main cause of cervical cancer is the human papillomavirus, which is the most common STD in the U.S. There is, however, an HPV vaccination that is given in 3 doses. The final point is that if you're between the ages of 21 and 30, you should be tested every other year. Women over age 30 can go every 5 years, but that's dependent on the conversation you have with your doctor.
People who have been diagnosed with cervical cancer, the majority of them have not been screened the prior 5 years. And these are women who, had they been receiving regular screening, may not be facing that diagnosis and the treatment that goes with it.
And Mike and Alex, Dr. Block also stresses that it's important for preteens to receive the HPV vaccination. The CDC recommends that children as young as 11 get that so that they're protected before ever being exposed to the virus.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot, Delane.
Yep.
Well, coming up, a day Cooper students intentionally filled with drama.
But first in sports, the Osseo girls basketball team is piling up the wins. John Jacobson has more on the Oriole girls when we come back.
We have a number of strong girls basketball teams in the area again this winter. As Jay Wilcox reports, Osseo is playing as well as anyone.
Here in the first half.
The wins are piling up for Osseo. The Orioles enter Tuesday night with a record of 13-3 and have played pretty well all season.
I feel good. I feel like we're starting to reach our potential, but still have a couple ups and downs. But I feel like we're still making progress, never leveling off.
A loss last week to an Elk River team ranked in the top 10 broke an 11-game winning streak, but the Orioles consider it a minor setback.
You know, we have to learn some things from a tough game. They're a really great team, so we just have to take some points from that game and definitely play better the next game. Like, this is what we have to do better and stuff, so we just have to get better.
You know, it's hard for me to ever say that a loss is a good thing, I guess, but, you know, it does. It has refocused us. It has made us realize that we have to show up and play every single night, and you have to play the whole game.
Speaking of the top 10, Osseo hasn't been ranked recently. The Orioles notice it but don't dwell on it.
It's kind of like we want to prove that we can be there, but we're not bothered by it because we're just going to keep working to get to, you know, where we want to be in March.
It bugs some people. I just play. You know, I just play. I don't worry about anything else. I don't worry about the politics or anything. I just play.
Tuesday night, the Orioles shoot for a season sweep of district rival Park Center in a game that's important for conference standings and section seeding.
Nothing we haven't known before. You know, they've been the same team for a while, and so just a cool rivalry all the time. You know, it's a good team. We have to come ready to play. Yeah, it's probably one of our favorite games. It's probably just as big rivalry as Maple Grove.
I think we have to come out and set the tone with our defense. You know, they have great players. Schaub's really been doing a good job penetrating. We got to shut that down. Obviously, Ann Simonet is a fantastic shooter, and we all know that Michaela Hayes is a force inside. So we got to work really hard on our defense, and then we want to try and play the game fast.
There's plenty of season left, and the Osseo girls are just getting stronger. Jay Wilcox, 12 Sports.
We'll have highlights of the Osseo Park Center game Wednesday starting at 4 on 12 News. Mackenzie Barta is in her 4th year of varsity basketball at Maple Grove and is headed to Harvard next year. She's featured on this week's Sports Jam show on Channel 12. Here's a clip from that story.
You know, in 9th grade, we knew that she was special, and she's developed into absolutely the player that we thought she'd be. And so it's just been great. You know, her leadership's been great, her work ethic's been great. Just a special kid.
It's just been awesome. I mean, it's been 4 years now, and I can't imagine my life without it. It's kind of scary to think about.
our last game of the season, this is going to be really sad because I've been coming here every day since freshman year.
A mentor to the younger players at Maple Grove, Mackenzie had her own role model as a freshman.
Angie Davison was a big one. I remember, so that was my freshman year, she was a senior, and we would go to Lifetime and she would teach me ball handling drills, and I could not do any of them, and she was so good at them, and now I've worked at them, and I'm the good one at them now, and I like teaching other people them, so she was a big one.
When Kenzie was a 9th grader and Angie was a senior, we were doing some things in practice and kind of doing some one-on-one situations, and a lot of kids kind of cowered away from Angie because Angie was such a good player, and Kenzie jumped right in there, and in fact one time took it right at Angie, they both came up with bloody noses and stuff, and I mean it was a sign of the kind of kid that Kenzie was going to be, that she wasn't going to shy away from competition.
You can watch the rest of the Kenzie Barta story and more this week on Sports Jam. It's on through Wednesday at 3:30, 6:30, and 9:30 p.m. on Channel 12. Should be good skiing weather this week as high school Nordic skiers in 2 local conferences hit the trails. The Northwest Suburban Conference Ski Championships are Wednesday afternoon at Theodore Wirth Park. Then on Thursday, the 5 teams of the Lake Conference ski for titles. Both meets are at Theodore Wirth Park in Golden Valley. Section championships will be on the line next week in Nordic Skiing. On Monday, it's a Section 6 meet. And then Wednesday, February 3rd, it's a Section 5 meet. And like this week's conference championship, those section meets also at Wirth. That's a look at sports for today. Hopkins Cooper boys basketball live tonight on Channel 12.
All right, thanks, John. We'll be right back.
Well, finally, a day filled with drama for Cooper High School students.
On Tuesday, Cooper students joined 5 other schools around the metro at a one-act play competition at Benilde St. Margaret's School. They performed The Giver, adapted from a young adult dystopian novel by Lois Lowry.
It's about a boy named Jonas who becomes the receiver of memory in this community where they've wiped out color and sunshine and love. And Jonas has been selected to be the new receiver of all these memories of sunshine and love, but also pain and starvation and warfare.
Sounds cheery, right? Well, the students from Cooper didn't take first place in the competition, but they'll have another chance Thursday at the Academy of Holy Angels. The students will then perform the play at Cooper for the public Friday, coming up at 7 p.m.
That's pretty deep
It's
stuff.
It's deep stuff, that's right. And that does it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
We'll see you back here tomorrow beginning at 4.